stuff.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody, calm down.
Ariana Grande conquered the world in 2019 with her 5th studio album, Thank You Next. She'd officially become an undeniable icon, breaking numerous records and being the undisputed it girl of pop music. Following the groundbreaking success of the Sweetener and Thank You Next eras, it would only seem right for Ariana to take a hiatus. After all, she'd given us 5 full-fledged eras in just 7 years. On January 26, 2020, Ariana would give what would be a fitting end to the Thank You Next era with her performance of Imagine, 7 Rings, and Thank You Next at the 62nd Annual Grammy Awards. I remember feeling a conflicting sense of happiness and sadness watching this performance. I was so happy that one of my favorite artists of all time was at her peak, but I also knew that her biggest era to date was coming to a close, and there would inevitably be a long wait before we got any new music. She would still give us new music in the form of a few notable guest appearances that year, however. Between the months of March and May, Ariana would appear on Childish Gambino's song Time from his album 3/15/20, Stuck With You, a duet with Justin Bieber, and her biggest feature of the year, Rain On Me with Lady Gaga. Just a few short months later, Ariana would unexpectedly bless us with an absolute gem of an album. That album was Positions.
It felt nice to be creating from a more healed place, which is nice. I know a lot of people love Thank You Next and want me to always make something like that. I think, but again, I think that I'm happy that that was executed as well as it was, and I'm happy to not be in that kind of pain anymore and to be in a new chapter.
In my Thank You Next video, I explained how I believe that Sweetener and Thank You Next were sister albums, 2 halves of a whole in the process of healing. And while I do believe those 2 albums to be a duo, I consider Positions to be the finale in a bigger trilogy that was the emotional healing of Ariana Grande. Sweetener is about the optimistic and bright side of the healing process, while Thank You Next is more raw and not as bubbly, showing the not so pretty parts of the healing process. Positions was inspired by Ariana's emotional healing, and while that may not be immediately apparent at first listen, this album is undoubtedly an unapologetic declaration of being wholly and completely in love and using that love as a means to heal from past emotional trauma. Much like Sweetener and Thank You Next, Positions was heavily influenced by Ariana's personal life at the time. Ariana's love life had been in the spotlight for almost her entire career and was arguably made harder to sustain by the fact that her previous love interests were also celebrities in their own right. In January 2020, Ariana began dating a real estate agent named Dalton Gomez. This was undoubtedly her most private relationship to date, as she kept a very low profile on their involvement with each other. Ariana didn't acknowledge the relationship publicly until confirming it in the music video for Stuck With You, the aforementioned joint single with Justin Bieber. It was clear that something was different this time. Something about this relationship was distinct. It provided Ariana the means to move past her past and finally heal from emotional trauma. And all of this was poured into Positions. At first glance, it might seem like nothing more than just another Ariana Grande album, but there's so much more to it. Positions was the closure that Ariana had been searching for so long. It was the light at the end of the tunnel. It was Ariana's happy ending. Many like to write this album off as being unserious and mock it due to its sometimes sexual nature, but I believe there's power and intent behind that. Positions is about intimacy and devotion. Ariana was unapologetically in love. Looking at the various artworks for the album, you can see that Ariana is finally right side up for the first time since Dangerous Woman, a clear indication that she's where she wants to be and has a handle on her life. Positions was the next step in the growth of Ariana Grande, the final chapter in her saga of healing. The title track was released as the lead single from Positions on October 23, 2020. The song debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and is tied with Thank You Next as Ariana's longest running top 10 single in the United States. Not to reference myself yet again, but I mentioned how lead singles set the tone of the era before, and Positions perfectly does that for its parent album. It is a sexy mid-tempo fusion of pop and R&B that only an artist like Ariana can pull off. On the track, she talks about hopeless and unconditional devotion to one's lover, a prominent theme on the parent album. All of Ariana's lead singles are iconic in their own right, but Positions just really does it for me. Not only is it my favorite lead single of hers, but it's also probably in my top 10 songs of hers. And that's saying something considering I'm usually more of a fan of deep cuts and album tracks. Generally, I'm a fan of the songs and artist discographies that sound nothing like anything else they've put out. Songs like Be Alright, The Light Is Coming, Imagine, and NASA are some of my all-time favorites from Ariana because they sound so distinct when put against other songs in her catalog. Positions is no different. It was my most played song of 2020 and is also my 5th most played song of all time.
Also, shout out to everyone that still is surprised when I'm sexual. It's so funny and it makes me really happy.
Positions, the album, was released on October 30th, 2020, with 3435 being released as the second single just 3 days later on November 3rd, 2020. A standout on the album, the song is wonderfully raunchy and the most overtly sexual that Ariana has ever been on a song. While at surface level, many would write this off as being nothing but another song about sex, I think this song, along with Nasty, one of the deep cuts on the album, perfectly represent what Positions is all about. In addition to being about unconditional devotion and love, the album also showcases Ariana owning her sexuality and not being ashamed to express that side of herself. I consider Positions to be a spiritual successor to 2016's Dangerous Woman in the sense that both albums showcased an elevated sexual maturity for Ariana. On both of these albums, she was far more candid about this side of herself, with Dangerous Woman hinting at it with songs like Let Me Love You and Everyday. Positions showcased an even more mature and free Ariana that was comfortable with expressing her womanhood. 3435 debuted at number 8 and later peaked at number 2, being blocked by Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. The song was Ariana's 18th top 10 song, tying her with Beyonce for the 8th most amongst women in the entire history of the chart. The official remix of 3435 was released on January 15, 2021 and features verses from Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion. Doja Cat's verse was originally meant to be on the main song, but it was scrapped in favor of her verse on Motive, another track on Positions.
Well, it's a tricky one because it's also like, of course you love yourself before you're able to fully love someone else, of course. And this isn't really about that in a way. It's just kind of about, you know how everyone has the little things that you're like, ugh, how could you like that, you know? And you see someone who you're madly in love with love that. And you're just kind of like, I'm floored. Like I'm like choking up. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oof. I want to feel that, you know?
POV, the final track on the standard edition of Positions, was released as the third and final single from the album on March 23rd, 2021. Notably, the only slow song on the album, the song talks about how love can smooth out imperfections and the desire to see oneself through the eyes of their lover. On the song, Ariana mentions how deeply her lover, Dalton Gomez, understands and loves her, how much more understood and adored the singer feels through his eyes, as well as her insecurities, her initial fear of starting a relationship again, and how Gomez has helped her overcome it. She also expresses joy for being accepted for her quote-unquote ugly sides and makes a plea to love herself just as much as her partner loves her. I'll be honest with y'all for a minute, brutally honest. I did not like this song when it first came out. I thought it was kind of a snooze fest. I loved what it represented, but it just didn't click with me for the longest time, and I couldn't understand it because all my friends loved it, everyone online loved it, and I just was not getting it. I didn't hate it, but it just was not my cup of tea. But I eventually came around, and I love it now. It's one of my favorite Ariana songs. So I saw the light eventually, but yeah, I don't know why it didn't click for me in the beginning. My past feelings about it aside, POV is a perfect ending to this album and by extension a perfect ending to the saga of healing for Ariana. It's a beautiful expression of unconditional love and finding happiness. While the song didn't receive an official video, a lyric video was released coinciding with the 6-month anniversary of Positions. The deluxe edition of Positions was released on February 19th, 2021 and featured 5 additional tracks: Someone Like You, Test Drive, the 3435 remix, Worst Behavior, and Main Thing. These tracks add so much to the main album that it felt wrong not to bring them up. These underrated deluxe tracks are some of the best in Ariana's whole catalog in my opinion, and they deserve so much more attention. Worthy of note, this was the first time one of Ariana's albums received a proper deluxe edition since My Everything back in 2014. Dangerous Woman and Thank You Next technically had deluxe editions, but the former's deluxe edition was the standard edition here in the United States, and the deluxe edition of Thank You Next was a Japan exclusive. Promotion for Positions was rather low-key. Ariana made very few appearances to promote the album, not that she needed to though. It was her first album ever to not receive a supporting world tour. However, given the state of the world at the time, that was completely understandable. While not directly related to the album, Ariana made a surprise appearance to perform Them Changes with Thundercat at the Adult Swim Festival in November 2020. In July 2021, she released a series of intimate performances through Vivo, marking the live debut of POV, Positions, Safety Net with Ty Dolla $ign, My Hair, 3435, and Off the Table with The Weeknd. While the album may have lacked in promotion and singles, Ariana made up for it with a number of guest appearances on multiple songs throughout 2021. She appeared on Met Him Last Night, a song she penned for Demi Lovato's album Dancing with the Devil, The Art of Starting Over. The song was released as the fourth and final single from the album on April 13th, 2021. Just 9 days later, Ariana would appear on the official remix for the Weeknd single Save Your Tears, which was the final single from his massively successful album After Hours. The two performed the song together at the 2021 iHeartRadio Music Awards. Ariana would also appear on the song I Don't Do Drugs on Doja Cat's third studio album Planet Her. The song wasn't released as a single, unfortunately. Positions is a very special album to me. It's my comfort album. It is my favorite album out of Ariana's entire discography and one of my favorite albums of all time. There was a certain confidence and self-assurance about Ariana during this era. She had conquered pop music and had nothing left to prove. She'd overcome her past traumas and moved past all of the hurt. She'd found love both internally and externally. This trilogy of albums is so important to me and is one of my favorite album runs in all of pop music. These days, she's busy with her makeup line, R.E.M. Beauty, and her upcoming role in Wicked, and has admitted that new music from her has yet to be recorded.
The truth is, I have not begun an album. After Positions, was not ready to start another album yet, so I have not begun another album.
Of course, I'd love new music from her, but I am perfectly satisfied with what we have for now, ultimately because she's happy. I can't wait to see how Ariana will return to music and how this new chapter of her life will influence her sound. And there you have it, folks. That is the conclusion to my 3-part video series on Ariana Grande. Before I started this channel, this was always something that I had in my head and that I wanted to do. So I'm so glad that I saw it through. I did not expect this to blow up as much as it did. If you have been waiting from the very beginning, if you were with me from the first video about Sweetener and you waited for each video, that means so much, and I hope I didn't disappoint you. But yes, thank you so much for all your support and all of your views and everyone who's taken the time out of their day to click on a video of mine. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for subscribing. I am at 1,800 subscribers, and that is just insane and crazy to think about. I can't imagine why so many people would want to hear me talk, but I am so grateful. I am excited to talk about more artists. I just wanted to finish this Ariana Grande trilogy because it just, it was something that I had in my head for so long. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. If you're new, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. I love you all.